Hey, what's up, Matt Kelly, Matty Riser, Wrestle Matts, talking the big four PLEs. Yeah, tonight on the live stream. What's up, Matty? How's your day been, buddy?
Dude, great. We got Raw last night. We're kicking the tires around on the PLEs, just kind of how wrestling has evolved, especially here in 2025 with TKO, all these overseas events. So much to talk about tonight, but I'm pumped to be here at Wrestle Matts.
Hey, a little look behind the curtain. If you are listening to the podcast via your podcast feed, Spotify, Apple, what have you, just know that we are live every Tuesday night. We're going live tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and X. You can catch us at WrestleMats across those platforms. And Maddie, a little bit different entrance. I wasn't expecting that jam actually before we got into the studio tonight. As much as I love our intro and our regular podcast feed, that was a good little jam to get us started here. I wasn't ready for it.
Oh yeah, we got our dogs barking.
All right, so be sure to follow us up on every Tuesday night. We had a live stream last night talking about Monday Night Raw as well. So if you missed it, we're going to try and start doing more of those. And we're trying to give you the schedule for the week. So you want to make sure and check us out on TikTok, Instagram, all of those things at WrestleMats. Stay in tune with us, connect with us wherever you would like. Tonight, Maddie, let's start with our quick count topic. We talked about it just a little bit last night in the WWE Monday Night Raw review that we were doing, and as part of the live watch, it happened basically just before we kind of jumped on to the stream. But Kairi Sane and Liv Morgan were set to have a match on Raw. I think this one went about 60 seconds right before, unfortunately, Liv Morgan comes down on her elbow. The word from Michael Cole was that she has separated her shoulder. And so that's a big blow to the women's division if Liv Morgan is set to miss significant time.
Dude, huge. You got a tag champ. She was kind of in the works for the WWE Women's Champion. So much going on here. We saw how involved she was last night just with Bella, with the tag titles, with Io Sky. So much going on here with Liv Morgan. And this is devastating for the women's division because you have one of probably the top 3 women's wrestlers in WWE right now going on the shelf.
Yeah, no word on exactly how long that injury is going to cost Liv Morgan. And very good point by you in that there's a lot of major storylines that Liv is involved in right now, whether it was Nikki Bella or potentially the Bella twins. You had the match with Kairi Sane herself, Io Sky potentially, Judgment Day, the fallout, and everything that's going to happen there. It's really about how much is on hold. And I feel terrible now. I didn't even realize this until earlier today, Maddie, but Kairi Sane now in the ring when 2 injuries have taken place, none of which her fault whatsoever, but she was also in the ring when Zoe Stark suffered that brutal injury just a couple of weeks ago. Now she's in there with Liv Morgan when she gets injured. I hope she doesn't leave feeling gun shy because those are just 2 complete freak accidents. Nobody's saying obviously anything bad about Kairi. I feel awful for her as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think it was her fault. It was 60 seconds into the match. I do have a little concern with it being Liv Morgan has had a similar injury in 2023 with her shoulders that put her on the shelf for 6 months. So there is a lot to go. I'm not a doctor, but a 16-week timetable for a dislocation like this, that could be very devastating.
Yeah, that could definitely be devastating depending on exactly what that time frame is. If it is on that upper end of, the 4 to 16 week sort of timetable, that's just going to throw things for a loop. But there is, kind of the interesting twist that Rhea Ripley was out with a shoulder injury when Liv Morgan took Dominic Mysterio. Now Liv Morgan's out with a shoulder injury, and Roxanne Perez kind of sitting there waiting in the wings. And I don't want to say like this is a good thing, but like, make lemonade out of lemons, so that could be something interesting to watch.
One, how does this affect Raquel, like Rodriguez? Because you have your co-champion here, and you have this Judgment Day vibe, and there are things Raquel's doing good. So to lose your, you are the heavy, you're not the main event. So it's like Diesel and Shawn Michaels. It's very similar pass. It just depends on what's Raquel going to do after this.
Yeah, Raquel, I think, is most at stake of kind of where her stock ends up going because without Liv, she's kind of been struggling to find her footing. She had a
Right.
pretty good run coming up into the main roster, and then she had whatever was going on, unfortunately, with that skin condition that she has that she's been working through and was off TV and then came back. And it's been difficult for her to find her footing. But then Liv comes back. They're making that great tandem again. She's in the Judgment Day. She's featured every week. And so now without Liv Morgan, that's a great question is like, does that feud that we kind of see playing out with Rhea Ripley, is that her next step? Can she carry that momentum? Can she do everything on her own? It's going to be interesting to watch for Raquel.
Absolutely. Prayers our way. Like I said, Liv Morgan's been a true gem on WWE programming, so she's definitely going to be missed.
All right, one more quick count topic for the night, and we'll try to make it as quick as his matches tend to be. Goldberg coming back. He is down for one last match there in Atlanta against Gunther, the World Heavyweight Champion, for the World Heavyweight Championship on Saturday night main event. And Maddie, I texted you because I bought tickets to Saturday night main event, and about 2 weeks ago I said, did I accidentally buy tickets to Bill Goldberg's retirement match? And as it turns out, I did in fact buy tickets to Bill Goldberg's retirement match, unknowingly to me. But where do you stand with this match, man? What do you make of Bill Goldberg's last run here?
It's tough, man, because I've almost been conditioned recently to kind of move past the legends. I'm more or less in the current product, but this is a dream match. It's a monster versus a monster. Whether Goldberg is past his prime, obviously, but this was a guy who during the late '90s, early 2000s was definitely he was over. He was booked as one of the most dominant wrestlers in WCW. So there is that dream match feel, but then it also depends on how are they going to book this match. Is it going to be short? Is it going to be fast and brutal? A lot of physicality. What kind of story can you tell? I think that's my biggest question going into this.
Yeah, well, I had questions as soon as he really started walking to the ramp, and I'm not trying to be a dick about this whatsoever. Spoiler alert for the channel that's going to be coming up here. We're going to have some Bill Goldberg trivia that's just coming down the pipeline, and one of the games that we're going to play, you'll be able to find it throughout our social media channels and whatnot. But Goldberg's 58. That's just the reality of the situation.
Wow.
He's a 58-year-old man. And I think I remember in an interview he was talking about he recently had surgery, and I really want to say it was hip surgery. I could be wrong on that, but if you just notice the way I actually went back and watched this, if you look at how he's actually walking down to the ring, I question if he's right. Like I wonder if he's not working through something difficult, an injury that he's maybe recovering from as a 58-year-old man. It's not like recovering from an injury during his playing days in the NFL or something like that. He's 58 now, and the wear and tear of being a professional wrestler over this time, regardless of how long his matches were, right? Like that's just a different challenge unto itself. So I'm a little bit worried. I don't want it to go like the Kane and Taker, Shawn and Triple H Saudi match. You know what I mean? That was that ended up being a disaster. If he truly is going to go out on his own terms, I want him to feel good about it. I want it to go well. I don't want it to go off the hinges.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question is how do you make this not go off the hinges? Like you don't want it off the rails. So obviously this is his last match. So Goldberg can put everything into it. Hopefully that's the plan. But how do you get Goldberg over at the same time as you get Gunther over? And I think that's going to be really hard to do with the 58-year-old with hip problems, with everything else. I do like the idea that it is in Atlanta. So you are going to have the crowd play quite a bit. Like I said, I think you just need explosive offense by Goldberg right off the bat. And then, Gunther can end it when he wants. But I think that's probably the way to do it. Wouldn't you say put Gunther on the ropes a little bit at first? They kind of did that story with Brock a couple years ago where Goldberg went in, spear, jackhammer real early,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're doing this at the peril of your your newly crowned world heavyweight champion, right? So
Yeah.
If Goldberg does get offense in, I do think it's that early spear kind of story that gets Gunther reeling, and that he's able to quickly, come back from and get the match back in check. But I also think there's a world that makes sense. I don't know that it'll happen, but I think there's a world that makes sense where Gunther just dominates.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so tough, man. Like, once Goldberg hits the spear, like, I don't know if he can even jackhammer Gunther. I think
That
there's
I
just
am incredibly worried about that.
it, it is just such an opportunity if you can really book this match to make it special. I'm not a Goldberg fan. I never have been, but with the home crowd, with if it's your retirement match and the way they've booked Gunther, I want to, think WWE knows what they're doing with this. They've had months to kind of plan this. And I really want to, I don't want to come after we talk or after we watch this. I don't want to be let down by the show. So that's
Right.
all I have to say. I'm hopeful that they can do this the right way. I think a lot of it is what Goldberg can do and how you can play off of Gunther to kind of showcase Goldberg in this.
And last part, it has to go on last, right? In Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is
Okay.
Goldberg's swan song. Like, this is a great way to
Right.
it's not passing the torch, but if you want to say
Right.
it, old school versus new school, it is a dream match. So it does represent that, Gunther is a lot more to him, but he is a dominant force in the WWE. Goldberg was at one point a dominant force. So there are stories you can tell with this match.
Yeah, that is kind of a nice parallel. We've heard them say it on commentary before about how many days champion or that Gunther has been champion throughout his time in WWE. And before he had lost to Jey Uso, it was something crazy, like 80% of his days on the main roster, he had been a champion of some sort, whether it was the Intercontinental Champion or the World Heavyweight Champion. And now he's got another reign going. So yeah, he is that dominant figure the way that Goldberg was before he went on the, quote unquote 173-0 or whatever it was there run in WCW. So, all right, Maddie, let's, anything you want to end on Goldberg? Or you feel like you're wrapped up there?
No, I mean, I think it's there. I think the one thing you do have with Gunther, which is really nice, is he plays the heel so well.
Yeah.
And I don't see him turning anytime soon, and I don't think you need to. And I think it just kind of everything works out great for Gunther. I don't think you can make him look bad in this storyline. I think he's going to shine regardless if Goldberg's up to the task or not. So if you're booking Gunther, I think this is a good match to book Gunther for because of that dream match of the new school versus the old school. And it's at a Saturday night's main event. Like you said, it's going to sell tickets in Atlanta. I mean, big time feel.
I have the utmost confidence in Gunther. Not worried about it. All right, Let's talk about our main event topic of the night, and that is the WWE Big Four PLEs. And this really just stemmed off of a kind of a one-off comment, really, with Money in the Bank, where I was like, I kind of think Money in the Bank's a Big Four PLE right now in WWE. And you're like, whoa, I think it's kind of more on the lower end of things. And so that kind of got us spinning our wheels and just saying, okay, we know what 1 and 2 are, and we'll talk about them for sure. But what are 3 and 4? And I think there's a lot of room for debate, and whether it's the matches in the PLE, whether it's the gimmick that you need, whether it's how the card stacks up, whether it's tradition, whatever the case it may be, what it is about WWE and the PLEs that really make those shows. So, Maddie, let's start with WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. I think regardless of, let's just ask right off the bat here. Mania Rumble. 1A, 1B, 1-2. Which one you got?
Yeah, I think this is a safe bet, the 1-2. Like, you can't get away from how important these two are. Mania is your Super Bowl, right? And Royal Rumble kind of paves that path to get to the Super Bowl. What teams are going to be in it? And I think that's huge as well. To me, I could go back and forth. We thought about this. We kind of did our research, kind of thought about what it is, but there's so many things to it. There's the prestige of these two events and what they mean to WWE. They're huge. And what the Rumble has became. We already got a comment here. Oh no!
From the Bret Hart. Let me ref the
Gold.
Goldberg match. Oh man, if Bret
Yeah.
Hart could somehow ref that match, that would be glorious. That would in fact be glorious.
Oh my god, that would add so much to it. But yeah, this is to me, Royal Rumble sets up for Mania. That's
Yeah,
big. But there's
yeah.
only one WrestleMania a year. And to me, it's the Super Bowl, whether it's the set, the design, the wardrobes, the surprises, or the storytelling. I don't think you can. I think WrestleMania is in a league of its own.
I'm inclined to agree for the most part. I will say from a physical being there standpoint, I do prefer the Royal Rumble. I've been to both. I've been lucky enough to go to Royal Rumbles and I've been lucky enough to go to WrestleManias. And from a fan perspective, the Royal Rumble itself, that event, it's just more engaging throughout the entire night as a whole because you're on the edge of your seat the entire night. So from a live watching perspective, Royal Rumble takes the cake for me. Now I haven't been to every single WWE PLE, so maybe I'm missing something somewhere else down the line. We can talk about that more as the show goes on. But I
Right.
do think you're right from a viewing perspective. Anywhere else, whether you're at home with your friends or you're at a bar or whatever the case may be, Mania is the one that is the spectacle. It's got all the pomp and circumstance. It is the Super Bowl that you're looking for. It is all the entrances, all it's where all the storylines that you've been anticipating.
Right.
That's where they're crescendoing. So it's got the history, it's got the legacy, and has every WrestleMania been great or perfect? No, I was at WrestleMania 27. Um, but
Right. No. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my god. I forgot we
yeah,
talked
exactly.
about that.
Yeah,
Oh.
but yeah, man, I'm right there with you. That's how I view it. And with Mania being 2 nights now, the SummerSlam that we have coming up being 2 nights, does it change your view at all if the Royal Rumble happens to go to 2 nights and we get the men's on one night, women's on one night, and it just feels like a bigger, because I think that's where the bigger events are going. They're going to 2 nights, man.
Right. I like I said, I'm not sliding the Rumble at all. I think there's times I look forward to the Rumble more than I do WrestleMania because you get that 30-man over the top rope, you get the surprise returns, you
Hmm.
get the shock and all. I mean, there's so many memorable moments. I could say probably just as many in the Rumble that I remember as Mania. Considering
Right.
every other PLE, it's probably, a fraction of what these two are. So to me, yeah, I think I'd like 2 nights. I think there's enough talent you could showcase, and I think
Hmm.
they have an opportunity. There are a lot of superstars that don't get shine, and that's where you could have some singles matches, some other matches that we could really spotlight, IC title matches, tag title matches, things like that. That maybe you don't get on the Rumble because it is one night.
It's actually a really, really great point in that. Okay, what are the PLEs that are out there making moments? Well, the quote unquote term is WrestleMania moment. We hear that over and over again. WrestleMania moment, WrestleMania moment. And then I think coming in second to your point of like, okay, what are some of the things that we talk about with returns and surprises? It's probably the Royal Rumble, man. I mean, I was there in 2020 when Edge came back. One of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life. But we talk about those sorts of things all the time. John Cena coming back in Madison Square Garden,
Oh my god!
the double finish or the double over the top rope that's been and feet touching and Kofi Kingston saves. All of those moments, we talk about those through time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I love the Rumble. I love every minute of it. The countdown clock, everything since it's evolved so much from what it used to be, and I think that's kind of a little different than what we were expecting because you have WrestleMania has been around since '85. Rumble didn't
Hmm.
really start to pick up steam till '91, '92. So it used to be Big Four, and now I guarantee you it is like the Big Two in my opinion. And I think that's where this argument kind of stems. It's these. It's if you're making, a top two list, it's a Rumble, it's Mania without a doubt.
All right, nerdy moment, but is this a good comparison? Is the Royal Rumble your fantasy football league draft day? Like, is that
Oh,
the level of excitement? And then Mania still stays championship week, Super Bowl, everything on top.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good like analogy for it because I think we do get more hype for the Royal Rumble match than
Right.
probably anything. But
Right.
if you're
Right.
going
Right.
from a show standpoint, you get hype for Mania over everything else. So it's like I said, it's a yin yang. You can't have one without the other, and I think that's what makes it so special.
All right. So now we have the task of trying to figure out what is number 3 and what is number 4. I was of the opinion that it was Money in the Bank until you said, "Not so fast, my friend." And it really got me thinking. And here we are on the precipice of a 2-night SummerSlam now in
Right.
a sold out, sort of arena. And that's such a wildly different as we are sitting here as well on our social media channels at Wrestle Matts, wherever you want to go view it. We're rewatching all of these classic SummerSlam matches that we got coming out. Let's see, this week we got coming up the custody of Dominic Mysterio match with Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, and then a triple threat match with Kurt Angle, Triple H, and The Rock at SummerSlam 2000. So we're going to be reviewing those. Look out for those on our show or on our social channels. But man, I'll tell you, I am torn. You could talk me into probably at least 3, maybe 4 different PLEs as far as what you have as your number 3 and your number 4.
Yeah. I mean, that's we kind of spurred this topic. You know, the big four aren't what they used to be. I think we both agree on that. Like, used to be Survivor Series. You felt the special of like the brand warfare or these
Mhm.
teams versus each other. You don't get that anymore. But then you also have SummerSlam, which it's kind of in the dull of the summer. It is probably the lowest point in WWE programming. So if there's a time to take a break, usually it's summer. So it's tough, and it's always been like that with SummerSlam. But you do get a lot of great matches at SummerSlam. But then to your point, PLEs, Money in the Bank, championship opportunities,
Mhm.
Elimination Chamber, championship
Championship
opportunities,
opportunities. Yeah.
big time matches. So it's tough. It's a tipping scale of what do you prefer and what is the selling point to the audience, I think.
I think if Survivor Series came back as something that was more meaningful, a la the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, where the team that wins it gets home field advantage, it means something to a brand or whoever, to those that are competing within the match. But right now it doesn't. And I don't know if I want to go back to the Raw versus SmackDown sort of situation, but there needs to be just something more on the line for Survivor Series. To me, Survivor Series used to be considered one of those classic, big four, with SummerSlam and Survivor Series being the latter two. But I don't really see it as that way. And maybe it can get back there a little bit if we keep having, if we keep throwing in war games. But then is it just about the war games match? Because if the rest of the PLE is just a normal PLE, then we're really only looking forward to the war games match, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's enough to boost it into the top 4.
Well, and then if that's the case, then I mean, what does the War Games accomplish? It's just kind of like a feud blow
Right.
off.
Right.
I think Survivor Series has really lost its identity. And that's the part that's kind of, I think you move it out of the 3 and 4 range because of that. Because
Mhm.
there's no real story that gets set up. There's no vibe to it like a Money in the Bank or an Elimination Chamber. There's really, I mean, it's supposed to be Survivor Series. There's
Right.
nothing about the identity of Survivor Series that sticks. So to me, it's got the legacy, but to me in 2025, it's just not it.
And I would imagine you feel that same kind of way about Hell in a Cell, right? Because it's not like every match is inside of Hell in a Cell. It's so weird because if you think about it, and you're like, oh, every match should be in a Hell in a Cell. Well, Hell in a Cell kind of then loses its appeal. I would
Right.
say
Awful,
personally.
awful idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't get behind that. But then the rest of the rest of that PLE is just a pretty normal, straightforward PLE, and I think you said it great with SummerSlam, and that is a lull in WWE programming. You're pretty far detached, right, from the Royal Rumble, from the Elimination Chamber, from WrestleMania, even. So you need something big to kind of boost, and I think that's what they're trying to really accomplish with SummerSlam now moving to 2 nights, is making it a WrestleMania type feel. And I think we've started to see it over the last little bit, right? Where SummerSlam has been hosted in these big arenas. So that obviously gives it the bigger feel. But then you also have talent going out of their way to have special gear and to make it more of a bigger presentation. And so I think if they follow through with that, then I can get on board with like, okay, now I look forward to SummerSlam. I know I'm getting a classic.
Yeah, I think it's just tough, man. I don't know if there's a 3 and 4 anymore. I think that's the hardest part to gas, because to me it's a Rumble and Mania, and then it's like a bunch of B-level pay-per-views. With the Elimination Chamber match, amazing. The Money in the Bank match, amazing. But you could have that Elimination Chamber match at Survivor Series. You could have it at SummerSlam. So it's tough. Do you put those do you put those PLEs over because of the match? And because it is on the road to WrestleMania, that's when you get the Elimination Chamber. So that's a big deal. Winner of that goes on to face, and then you have WrestleMania season. We saw Cena turn heel at the Elimination Chamber.
This is this intrigues me so much. This whole conversation about, does WWE have room to build, which sounds insane right now, for as big as they are, for all of the branding that they have going on, for the global reach that they have. But do they have room to create some more iconic PLEs? And I think with the way that we're talking about it, what we're saying is yes, there is absolutely room, especially when you give the gaps in the calendar talking about SummerSlam. It's like, okay, well, SummerSlam to Survivor Series, if SummerSlam cements itself, right, as this 2-night mega star-studded sort of event, then you gotta have something a little bit towards the end of the year. You don't want it butting up against the Royal Rumble necessarily, because I will say the Rumble, the Chamber, and Mania, man, that is like that's a lot to kick off your year.
Right.
So you don't want it butting up against that, but you throw it in late October, November, something like that. And I think that's a perfect place for WWE to establish something big at the end of the year. Not because Night of Champions doesn't do it either. We got Night of Champions coming up in a week or two, something like that. And, not every match is a champ. I mean, maybe it is, but I don't know.
And then you have like the whole Crown Jewel or Night of Champions, whatever it is in Saudi. A lot of times Saudi gets bigger matches, which is great, but it almost turns into like meaningless matches because of, Saudi has that, what's the word? I wouldn't say it is money, and that is,
for sure.
Almost like, I don't know. Should be a better way to do something like a dream match mania or something where you get the best of the best. I don't know if it has to be brand supremacy, but the IC champ versus the US champ, both heavyweight champs. There's so much you could do. SmackDown versus Raw champs. I don't know.
Yeah, what's up, Dredge? Thanks for joining in tonight, brother. Good to see you as always. And I'm right there with you. You do have these big time money sort of matches that are always presented in Saudi, but you can't deny that at this point, WWE has not solved the layover is not the right word, but kind of the lag, right, of talent getting over to Saudi and then being able to perform at a high level. It just hasn't happened yet. And it for me, man, if they're going to do those shows, tape them maybe or something. I don't know, but the talent having to travel that far in such a short window, and their clock is all thrown off. We're talking about Night of Champions coming on at 1:00 Eastern, 12:00 Central here. So you think about that time difference, 6-7 hours, whatever the case it may be, and asking talent to this. If you've ever come across professional athletes, they're creatures of habit. And so to take them out of their place and put them on these flights and just throw off their whole schedule and then expect the high-end product out of your marquee matches, I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I don't think they figured it out. And that's the issue. There is a lot of potential in these B-level PLEs, but to me, till they can, I don't know if it's just quantity over quality sometimes, and that's where we're kind of
For
at. We're
sure.
at a machine. It's every month, it's every day, it's every year. There's so much going on that it's
Yeah.
hard. You can't have WrestleMania season year round. It's just not possible. But like you were saying,
Yeah.
with the MLB All-Star game, there's got to be some kind of all-star feel. I mean, we do the draft, we do these certain aspects of WWE that are really cool, but then there's a lot of things we drop the ball on. So there's so much room for growth to make some of these other, whether it's storylines or just being better at booking events in certain areas. Like we don't need a time zone change. And if we do, it needs to be, we saw Backlash in France, was it? And that was the
Right.
crowd was so hype. You were more involved in every match. So I don't
For
know.
sure.
I don't have that answer.
Yeah, no, I like that. I pretty much agree with everything you said there. If there was a PLE that we could bring back, Maddie, just for funsies, right? You got a good look here if you're following along on YouTube, Facebook, X at Wrestle Matts, Starrcade, Cyber Sunday, Halloween Havoc, ECW, One Night Stand. There's so many good classic names that they now have the rights to that I think they could pump up and bring back and make it a marquee event. I think personally, especially Starrcade, and I'm a little bit attached to Starrcade because it was the first pay-per-view that I was ever able to get as a kid. It was like physically in my home was a WCW Starrcade. So I am a little bit attached to that, but you do have the history with Starrcade and with Dusty Rhodes and all that sort of thing. And I think they could really build a lot of like legacy sort of feel to that and make it as that winter classic, if you will, because the one thing that, or one of the things that WWE is really good at is staying in the news 24/7. You talked about it. Not everything can be the Super Bowl necessarily. Not
Right.
everything can be the World Series, but you can stay relevant. You can stay pushing the envelope. And I think that's WWE's next challenge.
Yeah. I think with that is, like you said, Starrcade. Even though we have it going on right now, I keep complaining about it. I feel like a homer here. But the King and Queen of the Ring, that should be its own PLE.
Yeah.
And it should be a
that's good
tournament.
one.
Why are there no tournament style pay-per-views? That is, you're risking a guy wrestling twice, maybe 3 times a night, but that was done so. Guys used to
Stephanie
wrestle.
Vaquera accomplished that feat no more than an hour.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, give me Jey Uso and back to, let him qualify for the next round, and then the match starts right away, right after. Like, give me something different. And that's where I thought King of the Ring really did a good job. And now they have it where, hey, the King and Queen of the Ring gets a championship opportunity at SummerSlam. That's perfect. So book that in June or July. Tell the story up till SummerSlam. Voila. King and Queen of the Ring. Perfect idea.
No, I think that's beautiful because first off, how much did Chad Gable get talked about wrestling as Grande Americano and then coming back as Chad Gable? And then how much did Stephanie Vaquera get talked about after she was on Friday Night SmackDown, NXT, and then Money in the Bank, all within the course of about 24 hours? I mean, that was unreal. And obviously, you don't want to run your talent into the ground, but you're asking for it maybe once or twice a year, and you can work it safely enough to figure it out, right? But think about the Royal Rumble, where what's one of the storylines that you're invested in every single Royal Rumble? It's who's been in the match the longest. You watch for it every single time. So if you get somebody going these back-to-back matches and then they show up on Monday Night Raw after they've been battle tested and they come away as your king or queen of the ring, I think that's a great way to make somebody too. And I think that's all eyeballs on whoever it is.
Dude, it's a storytelling. That's where WWE excels, is storytelling. That is right there. You make a Chad Gable because he's got the endurance to win 3 matches in one night, or Stephanie, or anybody else. It doesn't even have to be a main event guy. If you had a middle card guy go and Do something like that on One Night PLE. Everybody's watching. This guy just, I mean, it makes a superstar. To me, and you get to showcase them at SummerSlam, even if they don't win. Like, that's somebody you've built your summer around right there.
I think you sold me on King and Queen of the Ring. I think it's an instant classic and a great way to build another superstar. And then if you took either the Elimination Chamber or Money in the Bank, you could sell me on, as long as the rest of the matches were also bigger, meaningful,
Right.
that sort of thing, which I think they've done a decent job with Money in the Bank, especially I think you almost have to put the other world titles on the line within Money in the Bank to be able to make that, an added layer of intrigue there with whoever wins the briefcases throughout the night.
Yeah.
Why would you not want that extra level of intrigue, even if it's just a stare down at the end of the show or something like that? I could get there as well with the Elimination Chamber. And once again, if SummerSlam comes back, as this big 2-night event of the summer that they're basically turning it into, then I can probably put that at the 3. I don't think there's definitively gonna be a 4 until we get something like what you proposed with King and Queen of the Ring.
Yeah. And what about Cyber Sunday? That's kind of a unique idea that nowadays everybody's so tuned into Twitter and everything like that to vote on match stipulations or the opponent. That would be kind of cool as well. I think that would be very, giving of WWE to kind of let us in their world. And I mean, that's what everybody does. They fantasy book, they dream match.
Yeah.
So why not, put the things in our hands? We see, the yes moment, Kofi Mania, like, let us be involved more.
I don't know if you could go so far as to make it a big 4, but I do think
No.
in an ever more online, behind the scenes sort of look world that we have with wrestling right now, with professional wrestling, whether it's wrestlers and having access to them on Twitter and their dailies and their social media and all that. So to be able to, everybody's online as well during, or not everybody, but a damn good percentage of your fan base, right, is online. I think it gets people intrigued and voting, and it's very American Idol-esque, right? But you have something to do during the show. You're watching the screen for the stipulation or what's going to be voted on. You could literally be deciding opponents. I mean, I think it would be a great little throwback at this point.
Yeah, limited opportunities here. And I think that the nostalgia goes so far in wrestling. And I think you can bring that back. We have all this TV time. We have all these things. NXT does a great job with Havoc, with Bash at the Beach, with things like that. Just using that nostalgia vibe. There's TNA now. Like, we could have a TNA pay-per-view or something. There's so much to do in these 12 months that, yeah, you might not make the big 4, but to make those other ones mean more on the B-level scale of it, I'm all for it.
Starting to do that a little bit, right? You and I talked about how Joe Hendry came out to the Spanish version of his song there in AAA. So you've got that TNA crossover literally all the way in that promotion as well. So if you keep building on these promotions and all of the tools in your tool bag that WWE now has with AAA, with TNA, with NXT, with the main roster, you just have so many different directions you can go, man. And so I think it's limitless, honestly, what they can do. I think there is a lot of untapped potential there. And my biggest hope is that not everything involves a fireball ladder or Slim Jim table
Yeah,
or
when
whatever
that's
the
the
case it
thing,
may be.
we just watched what was it? Backlash.
Uh,
Backlash was a hell of a pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. But it
yeah.
was kind of, it's just there's got to be something else. Like you said, Money in the Bank, Elimination Chamber, they bring a different side to it. And I know they all can't do that. So why not have a, Extreme Rules pay-per-view or something like, I don't know, but there's, like you said, now we have AAA, now we have TNA, NXT. Have an NXT pay-per-view where WWE superstars get to fight up-and-coming stars. Something like, man.
Yeah, kind of a kind of an ode to oh God, what's the show with the coaches and the understudies? Tough Enough.
Yeah.
You know,
NXT champ versus WWE champ. Whoa.
yeah, make that a thing at Night of Champions. Like, what? Yeah, what are we doing here? What? Why are we not rating
Yeah.
this show?
showcase your talent. And they do a great job with those upper echelon guys.
Yeah.
But with you having so many on the roster, there's so many different directions you can go. Like you said, it is limitless if done right.
All right. Well, do you wanna get out of here? You got anything else left on these PLEs?
No, man. Like I said, I enjoy. I'm glad. I love these deep dives, these conversations, because it brings out things that necessarily we don't often discuss. That I think a lot of people are very intrigued by, and I think the Big Four PLE concept was one of them. So yeah, just loving the content, man. Check us out at Wrestle Matts. We've got shorts. We've got matches dropping the next couple days. On top of that, like you said, Eddie Guerrero versus Ray. We get to see a young Dominic. I'm your poppy. Custody papers. And is Eddie Guerrero the biological father to Dominic Mysterio? Is that what I heard?
You know, they didn't deny it, man. As I was watching that, I was like, oh, they're just like, we're all just agreeing to that. We're not even talking about. Yeah, that's what I picked up.
Check out these match reviews, man. It is so fun to kind of watch these matches, go back and review them, and just see kind of the nostalgia vibe of SummerSlam and what makes it such a big PLE for us.
All right, well, let me give you guys the lay of the land for the next three Tuesday night streams. We got Night of Champions preview coming up on June 24th. If something big happens, this may shift on July 1st. We may have to review, but as of right now, we're planning on doing pro wrestling comebacks on July 1st. And then we're going to be talking about part-time booking. Is it good? Is it bad for WWE on July 8th? So you got that to look forward to on top of some more Monday Night Raw live streams. Like Maddie said, all of these match reviews. Find us on all the socials. Join us here live each and every Tuesday night on Facebook, YouTube, on X, at Wrestle Matts. We will see you guys next time.